Hello everyone, and welcome to the second session of our 2021 Edtech Accelerator series. For those of you who are new, my name is Victoria. I'm the manager of the Accelerator here at WISE, an ongoing 12-month program that aims to support EdTech ventures across K-12, higher ed, and professional learning. If you're interested in applying, please make sure to sign up to our newsletter for updates. I'll link this in the chat later on. For today, we'll be exploring the topic of EdTech sales in a post-pandemic context, and most importantly, how entrepreneurs and schools can build more sustainable and meaningful partnerships for this new era of learning. To begin our session today, two of our own Accelerator alumni will be providing a unique insight into how they've scaled their sales approaches. First, David Ristagno, co-founder and CEO of Uptel, a SaaS solution specializing in experiential training using VR and AR technology. Followed by William Zhou, CEO of Chalk, a platform that connects curriculum, instruction and assessment processes and provides real-time insights for educators to improve academics. Following this, we'll have the opportunity to hear from Al Kingsley, author of My Secret EdTech Diary and an EdTech specialist for over 30 years, as he leads our panel discussion with David, William, and Brian Seymour, EdTech Director for Pickerington Schools in Ohio and 2019's EdTech Leadership School Leader of the Year. So without further ado, I will hand over to David. David, over to you.
Yes, perfect. So thanks for this introduction. So I'm David Ristagno. I'm the CEO of Uptel. I was lucky to be accelerated with WISE with my team in 2019, luckily before COVID. So we got the chance to also meet all the other cohort and all the startup of the cohort and travel with WISE and learn a lot. So to give you more context about Uptel, Uptel is a solution. We provide a solution to bring experiential training at scale to companies. So we bring them the capability of creating experiences and sharing them through virtual reality in order to train people in situation. So our approach is very pragmatic. Some people will create experiences using a 360-degree camera on the field, and capture the situations, capture the knowledge, capture the know-how, and make interactive experiences that can then be deployed on VR headsets. And it covers, and then learners can just teleport themselves into the situation and train and learn by doing. So it brings a lot of possibilities, and we cover many use cases that comes from health and safety, so practicing security procedure, safety visits and stuff like that. Production and quality, so onboarding newcomers, learning methodologies, quality controls, sales. So you can imagine a lot of possibilities where you're in the shoes of your role and practice. So this is great. This is very a great way of learning, and we are doing this from 2017. The thing is, with COVID, a lot of problems came with the situation, obviously, and we have something that is really physical. So we need to be on the field to capture the field. We need to be with people to give them VR headsets. So all the lock and all the lockdown was a real challenge in terms of sales, in terms of just reaching to the customers. And we really arrived in a situation where we didn't know if VR would be something that is paused or something that could be used and solve the actual problems of the pandemic. So our first reaction has been to improvise, adapt, overcome. So the expression that pretty popular was really perfect for us at that time. We just said, okay, we have this coming. We need to understand what that means for customers, what that means for us and for the technologies, as the technology, and see if we can be a solution for some people. So so the big questioning was, what could VR do for the customers? Not only for us, but not only Uptel, but can VR be a solution? So a lot of people in the sector really came trying to understand is, could VR be used with COVID can people really use this technology, or is it something that can bring just bring the disease to each other, or is the technology suitable? Then when we saw that maybe it was a solution for people because each one could have a headset, or we could use smartphones, or a lot of creative ways, the PC to just teleport ourselves, we say, okay, could we use VR to teleport people where they cannot go with COVID? So could be a solution to the incapacity of traveling? And in fact, it was. Could we use VR to meet people, or to reach other, or to be in human situations that doesn't exist anymore? So how could we re-enable what is not possible anymore? So VR came as a solution for that, and a lot of solutions, not only Uptel, but many solutions came to bring virtual meetings, virtual meetup of all people who could actually get out of their containment and reach each other. So yes, VR could be a solution. And of course, on our topic, can VR really help to train people to adapt to the new situations? Because COVID disrupted all the companies and all organizations and all schools, and could actually VR help train and adapt faster to those new situations that came suddenly. So we took it as an opportunity, in fact, and many opportunities. The goal was really to be positive about our solution and how we could solve real problems and basically adapt ourselves to this. So first thing for us, it was, okay, maybe we cannot go to all the events we are going, we cannot travel everywhere where we are going, but it's also a good time to think and to reflect about how to build the best products and the best solution, and spend time to partner properly. So we took it as a break. We took it also as a forcing function to digitize more what we were doing, because we are proning that. We are coming with, you should digitize your training. So we started by digitizing our own trainings and making that, we started to become more capable of transferring our know-how and to use VR and our solution to others, thanks to virtual training and we built digital assets for ourselves. And it was also enabling us to go global. Why? Because if you cannot go to the next door, then going to the next door or going to the other side of the planet is just the same thing. So we just adapted ourselves and our platform to be more international and to just solve problems wherever we could. So COVID was actually a push for us to just remove the physical barriers and reach other companies in other countries than France, where we are based. And as I explained a bit before, we discover a lot of new needs. The urgency to adapt to disruptions, the new skills needed urgently, the new procedures put in place with COVID, the new workplace situations, overcoming travel bans. Some companies needed to very fast relocate their know-how from abroad to take it back to their countries. So all those things were actually the result of rethinking what we were supposed to do, and this really reflected ourselves. Because if you can come to a customer with a solution to his current problem, then your solution can be solved. And it worked. So if I can give a piece of advice of how to do sales in this kind of situation where everything is changing and happening all together, first is try to be a solution for the new problems that come. How can you can be a solution to the current problems? And usually when you're a startup and a small company, you can change a bit, you can pivot a bit, you can change, and you can adapt faster than all the big companies who are suffering of also their size. So you need to look for new opportunities, because all those problems need solutions. So if you can be a solution, you can resolve that. You need to take care of your customer as well, because they suffer as well, and they need you to be a solution for them and to not be one more problem. Because usually when you come with a new idea to a company, when the company is open to new ideas, this is great. But when the companies are suffering, you are a problem for them, because you come with something new, and this is not the right time to come with something new. So when you have something innovative, take it as try to make it not be a new problem. For the team and for the psychology of the sales team and all the team, we understood that we need to accept the situation and don't find excuse, because it's so easy to say, okay, the sales is falling down, but this is because of COVID. Of course, yeah, because of COVID you can suffer a lot, but this is how you take the situation, and how do you don't blame the fact that you can really find another perspective. And finally, it's just the fact that the agility is what is the weapon of the startup. So if you consider that you can change, then the good things will follow. So for us, it worked for last year. It was difficult at the beginning, and then we started to really apply what I just said, and found a way to just overcome the situation. So to be more concrete, what we have done is to digitize the new situation. So how to help companies to develop trainings that are adapted to COVID, how to give better reflex to the employees, and be part of the new solving the new situations. The other thing we did is to digitize the places where people couldn't go. Like if you cannot go to the factories to decide about the changes, because the factory is limited to restricted number of people, maybe you can capture it and you can make it an experience and anyone can access it. That was something that solved a lot of situations. We also went into more digital assets with more 3D visualization, because when you cannot see your products, at least you can manipulate them in 3D, and you can still progress in your roadmaps for the customers. And also we digitized all our trainings in order for anyone on the planet to get access to our awesome training team. So this sounds very positive, but no, understand that this is not just this is hard. The point is, you can find good things and you can overcome, but 1 year later we feel it. It's very heavy weight on the shoulders of the founders of the teams. If you look at our life today, it's no physical meeting, no physical demo, no office, a remote team, no trade shows, no travel, low moral. I can read that like slow market, slow decision making, no visibility, no access to the field. So this is a crazy time, and we are lucky that things get better and there is a post-pandemic. So now for we kind of accept that it's hard, and we need to get to get positive about the future, because a lot of things seems to go in the right direction. We kind of foresee the end of the tunnel. So for us, what we decided to do this year, instead of trying to grow too fast and be under this heavy wave, is really to focus, to keep up, to focus on one simple objective, is just to sustain our team, to be really all together and go through this hard time, and take care of our customers, to make them use the platform and really take profit of all the things we could resolve for them. So the big message for the team on our side is get ready to drop the weight, and all what we have learned during this very hard time is probably the strengths that we will have for later.
Thank you, David. And we'll hand over to our next speaker today, William from Chalk. Thank you.
All right, if we can get the first slide up here. My name is William Zhou, and I am the CEO of Chalk, coming in to you live from Toronto, Canada. First and foremost, I just want to say I feel lucky to be in this industry, both in the sense that I'm in a technical industry where we can go remote, unlike some of the other service-based industries. So I do feel lucky to be in that sense. But second of all, also throughout this whole craziness that we've all have faced, it has been an honor to work with our customers, to work with educators through it all, and hopefully to create impact for folks as they go through this COVID pandemic. What I'll be sharing today is, I only got a couple slides for y'all, really our experience going through this pandemic, what we're seeing today, but really coming from a North American market experience, right? In particular, despite being a Canadian company, most of our customers and clienteles are US district and schools. Now, we do have international schools as customers, but that is going to be my perspective. I'd be certainly happy to learn from other folks on this call, as well as one of my panelists, because quite frankly, part of the reason that we are part of WISE is to understand the international market, is to really understand what is out there. But without further ado, I only have one slide to tell you what Chalk is all about. If you take anything away, right, you can visit chalk.com, a pretty simple domain, right? We are here to help K-12, right? K-12 specifically when it comes to teachers and schools to manage and curate the curriculum and lesson planning content. So all we do, right, is really helping schools and districts to manage their curriculum mapping processes, to help teachers with their lesson planning. And the whole point here is to get folks organized. And more important than ever, what we're seeing is that folks are talking about learning loss, especially this year. Every student is, gone through hybrid, gone through remote. There's been a lot of talk about learning loss, where folks should be at, where they're not at. And our belief is that the curriculum is the solution and will continue to be the solution as they have done in the past. And we have a platform, a SaaS solution that helps districts to manage that, to find gaps in the curriculum and to ensure that they hit all the alignment going forward as they go and map out their curriculum and planning needs. If we could go to the next slide. So that's Chalk, right? I mean, enough about Chalk, but how has COVID changed education? I don't think I have to preach to the choir here, right? I think we all felt the initial panic, right? Come around March 2020, right? It was a dark time not only for our customers, but for our company as well. Frankly, we didn't know what was going to happen. Schools were shut down and gone remote overnight, many of which of our customers have extended their spring break vacations. They've pulled all of their days to use in that time period because we thought that this was all going to blow over in about a couple months. For us as a company, our focus was on retention and renewal. Very much like David talked about, it was about your customers. It was about making sure that we serve folks in the necessary manner, whether it is to ensure that, hey, on the budgetary side, if there are changes that we got to make, we make them, or whether it is on the implementation and training side, what we can assist them in that sense, right? Of course, everything went overnight. It was a difficult time for everybody, but we also saw the changes that came down the pike thereafter. When schools opened back up, I think we saw this immediate acceleration, right? Adoption across the board. I'm sure folks have heard that some folks akin to this as about a decade, right? Education technology has been pulled forward about a decade, right? Teachers have more agency than ever in terms of how decisions are made. Teachers are trying more tools than ever. They're bringing tools to their administration, to their administrators. And that, by the way, has an implication to you, those of you who are running education technology companies, right? But at the same time, we're also seeing more sampling from teachers. And what do I mean by that, right? Teachers are trying all sorts of different applications. And in talking to other CEOs and other Edtech solutions, the usage is just going exponential, right? Last May, last June, all throughout summer and back to school, things just went bonkers in terms of, 1,000% is not out of the realm, right? Some have gone even further than that, right? We've seen adoption gone through the roof exponentially. But that being said, one of the things I will mark is that sampling does not translate to end usage. And that's one thing that many, frankly, EdTech solutions, I want to point out, don't overscale. Make sure you look at your data appropriately, because yes, we have had a boost, but is that sustainable? Last point I'll make over here, last year have taught everybody, and it sounds almost like a duh, right? Ease of use is becoming a huge point. And yes, it has always been a huge point, but more than ever, for us as a company to participate in these sales calls, to meet with districts, more than ever, folks are citing, we need this tool to be easy to use, because the bar has been set by Google's and Microsoft's in how they've done with their tools. So this is what we're seeing as one of the perhaps boxes you had to check back in the day, but now it's becoming more important than ever. In fact, to some folks, it is the #1 indicator of success. And of course, throughout the market, we also saw base systems like learning management systems just have gone through adoption and grew exponentially. So if you're in that market, kudos for you. We're not necessarily a learning management system. We're not an assessment platform. We are strictly in curriculum and planning, or other folks who call it curriculum and instruction. Next slide, please. 2021, right? Opportunities arose from the pandemic. I think we were even caught off guard, but just how fast things rebounded in the US market, and as well as in international school market, as we see. After the initial sampling, I think what we saw was that schools knew the gaps that they had to fill. And for us, it was a welcomed site over here, because we just so happen to fill in that curriculum management gap over here, which is a target area for many schools and districts. In fact, within the United States, I know this is very US centric, what I'm saying, there is just a phenomenal amount of funding that is coming down the pike, or have already come down the pike. Some of these acronyms that, I know it's acronym soup, the ESSER 1 and 2, the EANS funding, the GEER funding, have all made its way to the schools and districts. And it's just incredible to see what folks have. I mean, just in conversations, right? We've have with school districts, some of them have said, yeah, we received like over $10 million we're trying to allocate now. It is incredible, right, to hear. And I am really glad folks are finally getting the support. Now, not all of this is EdTech, mind you, but folks are getting the support to really improve their infrastructure and to make ways in investing into the future. But what does that mean, again, for an EdTech solution? Well, several things. One of which is that if you have a clear tie-in into some of these funding streams, right? And if you look into, for example, the EANS funding, the emergency assistance for non-public schools funding, you will see that redevelopment of curriculum and ensuring learning loss, to kind of fill the gap of learning loss is one of the key areas which Chalk fills in. So if you have a clear tie-in, you can really speak to that. The second thing we found is that COVID has really propelled teacher agency, as I've mentioned before. And this teacher agency is here to stay. We're recognizing that teachers are not necessarily making district level decisions, but they are having so much more influence than before. And our belief is that this product-led growth approach is here, and it's going to be the winner over the traditional sales method, the kind of call out, let's go reach out, let's wine and dine. Our belief is that if you have a great product, we have a freemium solution for teachers to do their planning. We have over 500,000 teachers on that. Our thesis is that will win over the course in times to come. And lastly, when it comes to marketing, again, folks are not in the school district. Now they're coming back, but what we've switched over as a very, very kind of precise example I'll give to folks is that, we said, let's stop selling folks. Let's provide value to folks. Let's give them content and resources that matches to what they're doing. And so what we did, if we can go to the next slide, is we started partnering with, frankly, just, thought leaders within our industry, right? If you're a curriculum director, if you're an assistant superintendent, you'll know who Dr. Heidi Hayes-Jacob is. You'll know who Maria Alcock is, Dr. Maria Alcock. And we've started to partner with folks to deliver genuine content to folks, right? Content that would help them irrespective of whether they use the platform, Chalk platform or not. And that's been just a phenomenal way to gain not only the respect, I think, from your industry, but really to help folks out. You know, in one of our sessions, we had 600 concurrent attendees, right? And it's just amazing to see administrators and curriculum directors coming on to a webinar like that. So, you know, we certainly welcome conversations, you know, when it comes to curriculum and instruction, when it comes to helping districts out, but I'm certainly excited to be on this panel and talk about ways that we can get into this market, because it is not an easy one. But if we can get in there and help folks out, our belief is that we can create a lot of impact for schools and districts and educators alike. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And William, that's a really good starter for 10 for our discussions today. One of the things I think that really resonated with me was just looking at some of the sound bites you've shared there, which I'm hoping we can unpick in our conversation as a panel over the next 30 or 40 minutes. I've made a few quick squiggles as you were talking through, and some of the terms that resonated were about you need to improvise, adapt and overcome challenges, be a solution to current problems, agility is key. One of the most important ones, and I'm sure Brian will pick up on shortly, is about measuring impact, about being accessible, and we know teacher skills and confidence was a key driver versus complexity, and also recognizing that schools at times have taken risks and are now trying to focus on how to get best value. So I think as a starter, we've got a really good set of questions or topics that we can drill down on a bit more, and hopefully, as well as talking about from your own vendor's perspective, we can share some nuggets for everybody to take away as ideas for their own businesses. So it resonates largely with me because I've been very fortunate to be a group CEO of NetSport for 30 years, as Victoria introduced me. And I would argue, rather than 10 years, I'd say the last 18 months has felt like the same kind of rate of change as the last 28 prior to that, from my experience. It really has been a seismic shift. And as you've both indicated, you know, vendors have had to engage and find different ways to sell into the space. So what I wanted to try and do was just kind of come back to you and distill down some of the key points that you've shared from your presentations and some broader ideas from your experience about how you've adapted your approach. So if I can come to you first, David, you know, does that context of that seismic shift, albeit your businesses are relatively new, does that resonate with your business? And what have been the key strands that you've focused on for adapting?
Yeah, well, we are kind of adapted to two trends, basically. The first one, and we discussed about it, is the acceleration of digitization. So all the schools and enterprises have had to accelerate their initiative in digital and get things that could have been done later to be done sooner. So that was kind of something that made us go faster into digital, also for ourselves. So that was one. And the other trend is also the urgent changes that happened to the companies and implies the need to adapt at a faster speed, at a digital speed. So these urgent changes actually created an urgency that we didn't see before on our side with VR, which was a great idea, but not urgent. Things started to become urgent, and this urgency suddenly made our product must have for some people. So it also changed our approach to the market just because of that.
Sometimes you need a catalyst, you know, with challenge comes opportunity. So I think that sense of urgency is a really, really good point to share. William, what about from Chalk's approach? You identified some of the uncertainty back in March last year. What changes did you focus on, and what have you seen as the key changes from a market perspective?
Absolutely, Al. For us, I think we were, I'll just say we were lucky. We were making certain changes already going into 2020, one of which is that the company was going to embrace remote as a possibility. Not necessarily getting rid of all offices, but we certainly have lucked out, let's just say, with that approach. We started that change actually in January of 2020, ahead of the pandemic. That has worked well for us internally with the team. Second to that, on the I think on the really customer and product side of things, we've really embraced a product-led approach. To give you a sense, Chalk in 2019, we had a full-on sales team. We went out there, we banged on doors, we called people, try to get folks in through the door. I mean, it works to a certain extent. But very soon we had realized and recognized that looking at our own numbers and conversion rates, it is the folks that found Chalk themselves, whether it's through usage, whether it's through the resources that are the most sticky. It is those that champion us and continue to be customers to this day. And so really a hard pivot in terms of our go-to-market strategies, getting into an inbound strategy. Not to say you don't need salespeople. I think there's still a place for that, but getting into an inbound strategy in 2020, in the heart of it, launching a teacher premium product and seeing that grow 20% weekly over week throughout the back to school season was just phenomenal. And then turning those initial kind of teacher-led growth into district conversions this time around, as we're in the midst of the high season of closing. That's just been tremendous for us to see. So it's not necessarily a 1 month pivot. It's been something that's been in the works, but I think COVID's really accelerated that for us.
Thanks, William. And I think you covered a really important point when you were talking about actually adding value rather than continuing to perhaps knock down the doors, giving that sense of being part of the education community, providing free resources and building awareness. And I think that's something that certainly my experience resonates as well, that it's much better to be giving in equal amounts rather than simply asking for customer engagement. Now, from those lessons, of course, all of our ideas and aspirations don't mean much if they don't resonate with the end user, the customer and their perspective. So we're very fortunate today to be in the position now where we've got Brian with us who can share from a district's approach how their purchasing demands, their priorities, how they've shifted over the last 18 months and how they've actually created the right frameworks to make sure that they are delivering impact. So Brian, from the things we've talked about, do they resonate in the things that you've experienced over the last 18 months? And how have you reshaped things?
Yeah, so thank you all for having me on. I'm honored to be here. As they said earlier, I'm the Edtech director for Pickerington Schools, which is in Ohio. So about 8 years ago, I took over this role, came out of the classroom, came out of the curriculum department and into the role of Edtech. Before that, we didn't have anything. And luckily, we've been able to do some amazing things over the last couple of years, from going from completely one-to-one, luckily before the pandemic hit, to really getting rid of textbooks and going fully with digital curriculum and content. So as of now, before the pandemic, we were spending about $1 million to $1.5 million a year on EdTech solutions, products, software, things like that. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to make sure that we did was we were choosing the right products. Because I think, as either David or William said, yes, teachers are bringing more stuff to us, but they don't have the time to really do the research and invest the time to pick the right thing. They're going to a conference. You've all probably been on conference floors and seen all the booths and the next shiny thing in the world of EdTech. And we want to make sure that we're using the right thing to move forward with that. So we have developed, and I just put a link in the chat there, we have developed basically a selection process that we do every single year with all of our products. So we are dealing right now with about 80 to 85 different vendors as partners that we do this with every year. And this is just making sure that what we are choosing is the right product to put in our classrooms, to put in front of our kids, to give to our teachers. So with this, there is a definite curriculum piece with this. There is definitely a technology piece to this. So we involve, and luckily we have a real good partnership between our curriculum office and our technology department. We work hand in hand with this. And I think you're going to see more and more school districts moving in that type of a direction, and less nuts and bolts types of things on the EdTech piece. Oh, I'm sorry, I think I gave it to panelists. Let me fix that here. There we go. Sorry, guys. There's the link. So with this, we are looking at different things, like from the technology side of things, does it work with our current devices? Does it work with our current infrastructure? What about privacy policies? What about rostering? I have 11,000 students in our district, and I cannot hand roster or CSV those pieces up. So we have to have that auto rostering piece. And then on the curriculum side, looking at things like, does it truly make an impact on teaching and learning? Is there a real process that goes through with this? And are we truly seeing some of those things? And one of those things that we're looking for is, what research do you have that shows that your product is really, truly making an impact? Or is it just, this is a cool thing to put in front of kids and it's interesting? We have a whole slew of questions that are available on there. I've worked with ISTE and COSIN to help develop or further develop these products. There's a rubric that's available on there, and then a whole slew of questions that we ask every single vendor pretty much every single year, because as most of us know in the world of ed tech, companies get bought, companies get sold, companies' CEOs change, and as those products happen, or as those moves happen, the product changes with those things. So one of the things that I always do as well is I only do 1-year contracts. Ed tech moves so fast, I want to be able to get out of a product if it changes and is not usable for our company anymore, or our schools, and moving with that. There's also some pieces on here about some different types of evidence that we look at, the different privacy laws, which is a big factor now in the United States, really looking at where our student data and where our student information is going to. Some of those websites that we use to evaluate, if your product is not on one of those websites, those are the main ones that we are using in the United States to kind of get the first glimpse into your program from other people. And then once again, we have our own privacy policy that we require all of our vendors to sign off on before we will provide you with any student information data. So this is really where we've gone with this. And I'm very, very, very happy that we put this in place before COVID happened, because it really put us in a good spot to continue to be successful. When COVID happened, we closed on a Friday. We opened up virtual school on a Monday. We basically hit the ground running. Our teachers knew how to work things. Our kids knew how to work things. The only thing we really had to talk about was how to use Google Meet and Zoom and those types of products. But that was a quick uptake and we were moving right along. And we were able to do virtual for the rest of that last school year. And then we were in hybrid model for most of this school year. So please feel free to use any of those resources. Please feel free to utilize those and run those through your program as well too. And I'd be happy to talk with anybody that would want any more information on any of those things.
Thank you, Brian. That's really helpful. And one top tip that I will gladly declare, it's definitely worth looking at that guide, because one of the things I would always recommend to any vendor is preempt. So look at the kinds of questions and the information that Brian and his district are looking for, and actually pre-populate on your own product support resources the answers to those questions. You make it easier to validate for the teaching staff to feed through up the system. So that's definitely a big plus. Can I just come back to you very briefly, Brian? One of the things that absolutely has become square and center in the radar the last 18 months has been about that kind of the focus on research informed. It was already moving that way, but perhaps the need to try lots of solutions has kind of amplified that a little bit. What are the kinds of resources that you'd be recommending that vendors should be looking to secure to actually give you the information you need?
So yeah, so we're always looking for what research is out there that your product has truly made an impact in teaching and learning, or has made an impact in whatever it is that you're trying to change. So with that, one of the things that we always get a lot of is, here's our own internal research. And whenever I get internal research, I'm always a little skeptical with that, because if you've ever done anything with data, you know you can manipulate the data around however you want. So what I really would love to be able to see is third-party research. So somebody from outside your company that's doing research and having that information available to us. I've done some things with other schools for white papers and things like that of how such and such a product has impacted our school district. I like those as well too. The other thing that I like with companies is when I first meet a company, or we go through the basic overview, I like to talk with 3 different people. I want to talk with salespeople, I want to talk with somebody that's an educator that's inside of your company. And then I want to talk to some technical people as well too, because I found that if I'm asking a technical question to a salesperson, they don't always give me the right answer. And this is really where this whole thing started at, was that I had all of those conversations with one person. I got horribly wrong answers, and we spent $50,000 on a product that did not work. So that's really where we're trying now to really have those direct conversations with the right people in your company. Have that education conversation with somebody that's been in a classroom before that would really know how this product would work, and then have those technical conversations with, how am I going to set this up? How am I going to make sure things sync? How am I going to make sure things roster? Are they going to work with our network, with our infrastructure, those types of things? So really trying to look for the research to show me that this has an impact somewhere, and not just, like I said before, the next shiny thing on the Edtech conference floor.
Thank you.
If I could jump in, Al, just to echo what Brian was saying here, I think, it's so funny, because back in the day, we would publish our own kind of, hey, here's what we did, here's a case study. Yeah, nobody cared. and I could see Brian shaking his head. What ended up working, and if you go to our website right now, even just at the very bottom, it's those white papers. It's not us who is writing it. It's actually our customers who have felt the need to really talk about Chalk and really curriculum as a whole, and the processes and their learnings they've had. And it's not published on Chalk, right? It's published on Smart Brief or eCampus or K-12. There's a variety of publications, right, that they do these things in. And I can say that, for entrepreneurs and other folks, it is credibility. I mean, a big part of this industry is credibility, and it's getting the word out there and having folks really to talk about it. I know it's tough, right? You got to build up to get there, but that helps so much throughout this entire process.
Thank you. I think that's a really good point. I think the other one just to identify is there's always this challenge of when you're initially a startup, you don't have the luxury of that customer base. And that might come onto a point I might touch on later on, which is about when you're developing solutions, co-production, actually working with educators for that feedback. And that starts to build a few of those pseudo white papers that you can then develop as the product goes live. Just listening to Brian's experience and feedback, and clearly he's a tough gatekeeper, and that's one of the reasons why his program's been recognized as an exemplar when it comes to making sure you're getting good impact with your solutions. David, how does that resonate with you? And are there any aspects you could share from your experience about how you can foster and develop that relationship with your customers?
Yes, so it was very interesting to see the other side and understand about all the barriers and the gates. So we understand better now some situations. So now, frankly, it's very structured, and I see the value of that. I think in the opposite, also coming with this new kind of solution, VR, with VR headsets that are not yet in the school. So we have this kind of chicken and egg problem where the schools cannot try because they don't have the device yet or the solution yet, and the studies cannot happen. So then things need to start slow, but luckily some early adopters will come and just break the flow to just try and use also the common research about the topic on our side. So I think one advice or something that would be great is if we can see more agility in trying out solutions, because some solutions are proven, some solutions will be proven, and we have sometimes the teachers who want desperately to try, but the administrative barriers makes it a long journey of 6 months to 1 year to go through all step of layer without even trying it or getting a sense of will it be useful. So maybe this agility can also come into like a balance. How can we do that and still don't break all the things that you have built, because all that, Brian, is really powerful to not spend too much time on things that will never work, and that's a very smart way of doing it. And then Yeah,
ahead,
so
sorry.
just on the side of the vendors like us, what we have tried is to be open on our business models, to trying to not be really broke, to be open on trials, or do some freemium on teachers, or do some things that enable trying out without having breaking the barriers, and enabling this. And yeah.
Now that's a really helpful point, and I think it is a two-way street. But by making product available freemium for schools to try, there's a feedback to the schools, which is you learn and you adapt and you get good enhancement opportunities for future iterations of your product. So it is a a symbiotic relationship. William, you've touched on a couple of examples there, but what are the key strands that you've been using at Chalk to really build those relationships with your customers and develop them that others might want to take as an experience from you?
Sure. So absolutely, again, I want to fall back to the product-led approach. Again, we're seeing more and more of that within our industry. Even just talking about M&A transactions of recent education companies we've seen, they've grown phenomenally through a product-led approach. And we're hearing that more and more from investors and backers even talking about that. I think traditionally it has been a little bit about boots on the ground. It's been about getting a full sales team, wining and dining, or knocking on doors. But I think right now more and more it is going back to the teacher agency. Now, to Brian's point, yeah, we're not saying teachers are making the final decision, but getting that initial highlight, getting teachers to try out things, it provides a really nice indicator for us to understand who we should talk to. Okay, as a company, I can tell you right now, there is a pocket of users in this locale or that locale, and it really gives us an opportunity to bring the conversation to them. Now, often than not, right, inbound provides us with an opportunity where people are searching these things and they are coming to us. And again, we're fortunate in that respect, but I think the changes that we're going to be seeing is really a strategic one if you want to survive and thrive as an edtech company.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important one. Now, I'm really mindful as we come into the last kind of 10 minutes of this, that one of our key focus is about how we scale sales. Well, within reason, anybody can sell some tech, but what we want is longevity, businesses with an upward curve. So I'm interested in terms of the key strands that will help build those relationships and help grow sales. So if I come to you first, Brian, putting the nuances of a particular product to one side, what are the key things you're looking for in terms of the vendor engagement and relationship with you? I'm going to guess as a starter that if they call you every hour on the phone initially to introduce themselves, that's not going to win many favors.
No, I on average get about 15 to 20 emails a day from vendors asking for 5 minutes of their time or my time. And if I gave that up, that's all I would be doing on a constant basis. So those are pretty much instantly deleted, and I don't even, to be honest with you, open them up. The things that I'm looking for is I like it when I think it was maybe William that put some stuff up there about when they bring in an educator, or I call them edu celebrities every once in a while, that bring in somebody to have a conversation, and then it's slipped in there, this is how Chalk can help with whatever product is. I like those because that gives me this significance of, hey, I'm going to learn something, but then I'm also going to find out about a product. I also like, David had talked about, folks trying things out and the availability to pilot some of those different things. We love piloting things. I've got 4 projects sitting right here of things that we're piloting over the summer for the district. So the availability to do those types of things, have the conversations with the right people. I also, I do love the expo floors, on conferences whenever we can get back to those again, ISTE and COSIN and those types of things here in the United States. Being able just to have some conversations, being able to see what the products are, get my hands on things. But then as we go through, I view this more as a partnership. I don't view these as vendor school type things, or I'm just buying something from you guys. It needs to be a full-fledged partnership. So there needs to be that ease of troubleshooting, problem solving, things like that. We have gotten rid of a few companies that we've had in the past that their help desk tickets have taken too long to get fixed, or this doesn't work, or things like that. So truly that partnership and the ability really for us to play with the product before that, pretty much two of the big things.
There's loads of really good points in there. I mean, I think we all look forward to ISTE, COSN, BET, whatever the shows are, because it also is really the priority number one is about relationships. It's about how we're engaging and building and developing those contacts. So I think that's definitely a really key one. I think the contact one, trying to give another takeaway for listeners, is, one thing that I find, flipping my hat to my role working within schools as a multi-academy trust, is when there isn't any contact throughout the year, and then a week before there's a subscription renewal, you get a phone call. You need to build that value add and those check-ins and content throughout the school year. And I see Brian's nodding away there. Now, as we run into our last 5 or 6 minutes, I think what would be really nice from all the things we've shared, and Brian's very much validated what William and David have been sharing there, is really a few good takeaways about the priorities from a business perspective for developing and building growth in the current landscape. So David, can I come to you first, and just if you could give 2 or 3 of your top tips, the things that you would share as the kind of priorities from your business perspective?
Yeah, I think the most important is to create value. It's always the product, always the services. So create value and and find solutions for your customers' problem. So this is the core. And if you can do that, and if you can make this known by the community or by your customers, and the word of mouth will do the job. The best is to get this value out, people trying out and coming to you. Because it's always better to reply to people really coming with an interest because of your content or because of your word of mouth or whatever, and then try to be close to the people who come to you and reach and solve the complexity of the enterprise or the administration in front of you. I'd say it would be the advice. So creating value, getting this value out, and being very close to the people coming to you.
Thank you. Now, before I jump to you, William, to wrap things up, I'm aware that we've got a few questions that have been fed in, and if we can't answer all of them now, I'm sure they can be fed back post-event. But some of the questions really resonate around the same topic. So what does a post-pandemic sales role look like? And I think we've heard about that consultative approach rather than the hard sell, adding value in what we share and give. There's a question specifically for you, William, which perhaps you could answer as part of your top tips, which is really about, for a product-led approach, how much is it about showing the details of the product and letting teachers draw their own conclusions and value, as opposed to pushing it to the decision makers as such?
No, thank you. I've been actually keeping in touch with the chat, and I've been giving some responses. Really appreciate everybody for contributing there. We are, again, we would probably benefit. We don't have a hardware component, so we do have a full product, frankly, out there for teachers. We are the #1 most popular lesson planner. If you go to your phone or tablet or whatnot, and you just say lesson planning, Planboard will pop up. So we have that benefit of just saying, hey, if I'm a teacher, I want to get started with my lesson planning, I want to use this. Great, right? That is a very strong advantage. If I were to be doing hardware, and God knows, David, it is hard doing what you do, but so we have a very much of a unique advantage there, I would say. But back to your point, Al, about kind of closing this off, I think I want to echo what Brian is saying about partnership. More than ever, last year, we have an amazing advisory panel, right, made up of superintendents, principals, right, curriculum directors. It's keeping these folks engaged, and it's asking them, hey, what's going on, right? How are folks thinking about it? Because ultimately, yeah, we're not selling this thing, a widget, and then being done with it. It is a partnership. Someone else during the chat also asked about, well, how do you retain this and continue to grow upon it? We could probably spend another whole hour and more talking about customer success and how do we grow this, relationship. But that is incredibly important. And I know I would be doing my team a disservice if I just leave off with you that. But one thing I will mention is, if there are any other folks that are looking to join in the EdTech side of things, we are hiring. And so whether it's designers and customer success folks, take a look at our website, submit your resume if you're in that. We are remote friendly, so definitely happy to bring folks on board because it is a crazy time, but we're seeing this opportunity ahead of us to make some great impact for folks.
Well, congratulations on sneaking a free recruitment advert in the end of that. That was very opportune.
I got to do that, Al, as a CEO, right?
I don't blame you at all. I don't blame you at all. And one of the things I think we've also highlighted with the benefit of technology moving online, in terms of developing those relationships and pipelines, I can certainly share back that we've seen a huge growth in the value of building professional networks, whether it's with educators on Twitter and other platforms, whether it's about looking at the massive increase in terms of podcasts and online radio stations, and many that have proven to be successful. We host one ourselves as a business. It's all about bringing those respected educators in to share best practice and advice. And on the back of that, we learn, but we also become more visible and customers are aware of the solutions that we offer. And that sense of giving something in return for visibility is probably the most effective way right now of building that pipeline, people wanting to come find you rather than feeling they're forced to. So that's another opportunity. Now, I'm looking at my clock here. I think we've got about a minute to go. So I'd like to wrap up. First and foremost, to say thank you to everybody who's joined us this afternoon, this evening, or this morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you, David, William, and Brian for joining us on this panel. It's been a really, really healthy conversation. Both of your businesses, David and William, have demonstrated the benefit and the impact of being the support with WISE, which is fantastic to see. And I wish you every success in the future. And for those who have listened in, you've obviously got our names and details. If you want to connect on social media, if you want to pick anybody's brains with other ideas, I'm sure everybody will be willing to share their examples. And don't forget to check out the link that Brian shared with you. It's a really, really valuable resource if you're selling in the EdTech space. And on that note, thank you very much, and lovely to see you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day or evening ahead.